Hey there, film fans. My name is Jeff.
My name is Dave.
And my name is John. And welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to make sure we're discussing these movies with a strictly positive critical eye, we are making this here podcast a drinking game, people.
A drinking game? Oh.
That means anytime we talk about this American classic that we'll be discussing today, and we say something bad, dumb, negative, or misleading about this film, you're going to hear this sound. And that means that we are telling that person to go F themselves and have a drink. And we hope that you all at home have a drink with us, unless you're behind the wheel of a car. Drive safe.
So pour yourselves a glass and sit back and get ready to get told to get effed.
Oh my gosh. Well, before we get into our episode, let's head over to John for a couple shout outs.
Quick shout outs.
We have some shout outs. We have a beer sponsor. His name is Carlos Barroso.
Wait, we should get more beer. I'm back in New York.
Honestly,
Carlos!
Hey, where's that beer sponsor? Carlos, come at me. Hey,
Interrupting
Carlos,
the
go fuck
shout-outs.
yourself, Carlos. He's got a handle on Instagram. It is C Barroso Bar 2019. That is CBARROZOBAR 2019. If you're digging the music, you can download all this music and all the rest that this artist, Dasein, can provide if you head over to soundcloud.com/Dasein-artist. We will hook it up for you. All right, Jeff, let's get back and let's introduce a special guest that we have with us today.
You know what, John? I'm going to send it right back to you because this is
I'm
your
excited.
invite. This is your account. So let's do it.
All right, so we have Mr. Matt Gilbert. He is one of the co-hosts of the Matt and Mark movie show. Any hardcore listeners to the Love of Cinema pod may have heard me mention that I was lucky enough to come and guest host on their Mortal Kombat episode before we did our Mortal Kombat episode. I had a fucking blast. Matt Gilbert, welcome to the show, dude.
Wow.
Yay.
Thank you guys so much for having me. This is
Yeah, man.
amazing.
So
it's just
tell me
surreal
a
because I've
little
been
bit.
listening to you guys for the last week. So now to be here in person is strange.
Oh god,
but-
that must
but
be
good.
annoying.
Does it feel-
It's like I'm sick of the sound
yeah,
of your
I'm sorry.
voices.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's almost like watching the Showbiz Pizza Band and then peeking behind the curtain. There you all are. I'm watching you all work.
Exactly what it's like.
You're already
Tell me a
talking
little-
faster to keep up with us.
Yeah, that's just gonna happen. This happens here. Tell us a little bit, just to give you, not to pimp you out too hard, but anyone who hasn't had good grace to listen to your show yet, it's you and your buddy Mark. Tell us just a little bit about the show and where we can find you and everything.
Yeah, we're the Matt and Mark movie show. You can search us. We're available on all the major pod platforms. It's me and my buddy Mark Monstrowski. We met 20 years ago. It's a bromance, a 2-decade bromance. We've been watching movies together ever since. And I like to tell people that our podcast is 20% movie review and about 80% old man tangent, where we get fixated on something and we yell about it.
Nice.
Just honestly, it's like some of my favorite parts of the show. Anyone who hasn't checked this out yet, it's really funny. You are still, don't be modest, dude. You're going to still get some fun film talk too. You guys know what you're talking about, but you're also just going to hear two hilarious friends go at it with each other. And it's very enjoyable. I definitely recommend it. Subscribe, like, love, follow those guys, the Matt and Mark movie show.
Wow, thank you. And it was a pleasure to have you on our show, John. And I think I would love to wrangle both of you guys on
Get
the
those
show as
fuckers.
well.
Yeah, get these motherfuckers.
If you
on there.
dare.
I mean,
They will do it, right?
Yeah,
All right.
the things I've done on air.
Love that. Yeah,
So
get
should
that
we
Australian voice.
put him through the standard ringer questions?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
do
sure,
it.
yeah,
Do
yeah.
it.
Go.
What
put him
is
in
your-
the box,
What is
put him in the
your
corner.
number one favorite movie?
Oh, not to be this guy, but it changes all the time. So it depends on the day.
I'm the same.
And on the day you've reached me today, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990. Today is my Ninja Turtle
my
Day.
What's a
God.
classic?
Best movie ever made.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Yes,
not
dude.
according
Yes.
to recent polls, but and worst movie you've ever seen in your life?
Oh God, I think the worst movie I've probably ever seen would be a little scene film called Nicholas Nickleby. It starred Charlie Hunnam way back in the day. I was forced to watch it for a
And that's
class.
the
right?
question you have to drink.
Oh my God.
I walked
Nicholas
right into it.
Nickleby.
They always fall for it. It's great.
Oh God, I walked right
So,
in.
yeah, I haven't heard of this. Like,
It's Charlie Hunnam. I watched it for a class. I don't remember anything about it. I just remember it was a lot of frocked collars and a lot of posturing and tea.
It's gotta be a
Definitely a
book
period
from-
piece.
Yeah.
whoa,
Yeah, like a restaurant. Okay.
yeah.
Sweet, dude. Well, again, welcome to the show. We are so excited. Jeff, what are we talking about today, dude?
All right. Well, today we are going to be talking about American Graffiti. And really quick, friends, at the midweek drop, coming up soon. We are going to be talking about The Toxic Avenger, and our special guest host, Matt, here loves The Toxic Avenger. And we are going to be doing that in a very specific format, which is going to be somewhat of a debate style, where we debate just how good The Toxic Avenger is. That is 1984's The Toxic Avenger, right in the middle of that 80s horror, just right in the meat potatoes of, is it a comedy? Is it a horror? Is it way too sexy? It's all of those great things. And Matt is going to be our resident expert and positive critic on that one. And I can't wait to get to that. So look out for The Toxic Avenger. But first, today, right now, we are going to be talking about American Graffiti. But before we get into American Graffiti, which is ranked, I think, number 64 as of right now on the AFI's top 100 list. Dave loves the AFI list, especially the A, which stands for American, and Dave's from Australia. But we're going to talk about American
stands
Graffiti.
For fuck yeah, right?
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
But really quick, we do have a lot of people that listen in time, and they want to know what we've been watching. So, Matt, I hope you get ready to join us in a bit. Dave, you can kick us off. What have you been watching this week?
Oh, I hit the classics this week. I don't know whether I mentioned last week. It was because it was right on the cusp, but I watched Dread. The more recent one, but also I went right back just to see if it really still stood up, and I watched The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
Fun times,
No.
Mr. Connery. Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah. Ouch. Oh my.
Okay.
Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that after all our hailing of Paddington 2 being the best reviewed movie of all time, it got knocked off already this week.
Yeah, it got knocked off
Yeah.
already this week.
So Paddington 2.
Can you let the people, and what is number one now?
Number one is now Toy Story 2.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
I think the guy who suddenly surfaced with this negative review thought that Citizen Kane was just going to go straight back up there. But nope.
I mean,
Turns out Toy Story
it did
2
not.
is now the best
He was
reviewed
secretly
film
the
of all time.
president of the Toy Story 2 fan club.
Yes.
It's all been a massive
The
The
conspiracy.
treasurer. He's not even
Honestly,
the
dude.
president.
Yeah.
I was the pickiest out of the Toy Story when we did our franchise face-off, but 2 has some real good gut punches there. They had
Yeah.
some real good
2
ones.
is really good, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right. Should we... Anything else, Dave, or we want to pass it up to
That was
John?
me. Pass it on.
So I think I mentioned it last week. I watched the first Pirates. I had some friends and family visiting and stuff. I was going some places, so I just stuck with that.
Don't blame them for your choice of movies.
No, I just feel like I didn't get to watch much more than number 2 and number 3. I think I still have the fourth one, Dead Man's Chest, which I have not
Oh,
seen.
you can miss
before.
that.
Isn't Dead Man's
Okay,
2?
that's-
I thought 4 is At
okay.
World's End. No, it doesn't matter. 3 is At
That's
World's
number
End.
3. 3 is At World's End. So yeah, it was okay. I think we may have made the right choice, not putting them in our franchise face-off. But
Yeah, they've made
Well, I'm
so
having
many of them
fun.
now.
I'm
It's like
having fun.
Star Wars. You have to concentrate to figure out which one you're talking about.
it really
Oh,
is.
God.
It really is. But good enough time anyway. How about you? Jeff,
I-
you want to hit us first?
I actually hadn't watched the final episode of the Sons of Sam documentary. Final episode's
Oh,
a little
shit.
bit of a downer, though. So if anybody, for whatever reason, is losing steam, I'm not telling you to not finish it, but Netflix knows that.
Wait,
it's-
hold on, wait. So
it
the
was
rest
great,
of the
though.
Sons of Sam documentary is a feel good. It's like an upper.
The rest, that's right. Well, at least the first 3 is fascinating, but the last one, it
It's a
becomes about
musical.
Maury. I'm not getting into it. And then
Okay,
I'm
okay.
actually still a little behind on Mayor of Easttown, which
Did you do
right
it?
now,
Okay.
as we're recording it, is the finale.
The finale
So
is right now, yeah.
we'll see. I'll finish
I'm
it by
still
next
going
week.
with that.
I think that's it for me. Matt, what have you been up to? What have you
dude,
been
what you
watching?
been watching, man?
I finally got to Amazon's Invincible. I'm
shit,
only
the
about 4
cartoon,
episodes
right?
in, but I'm loving it. Every single episode reminds me of like what good solid writing is.
Oh,
And I'm also a
nice.
big fan of violence too, so I got a little violence and a little good writing. And I also then pivoted, same on Amazon.
That's going to be our out of context audio clip for the week.
Yeah. And I also caught a little movie, I believe it was released last year from A24 called Saint Maud. This was supposed to be like the latest in their sort of art house horror. And it looked like a
Yeah.
religious themed movie about a girl who has some religious proclivities, maybe some mental issues happening. It's like a Black Swan-esque religion horror movie. I highly recommend
Nice.
it.
That's
Matt,
awesome.
man, I'm so sorry that Amazon outbid you for the MGM Studios. I know that you guys were really going for it, but 8.5 bill is just a little bit too much for you. So sorry about that.
Yeah, if it was 8.3.
Did everybody hear about that? That's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think that? You know why it got up so high? It's because of Matt and his friend Mark and their podcast. That's why they kept the bid going up and up and up and up and up. And there
we're Amazon. We are Amazon whores. We will ring that bell. We're like the Salvation Army Santas out there dancing around.
Sponsor our show. All right, let's fucking do it.
All right, American Graffiti people. This is directed by George Lucas. This is the film he directed before Star Wars. There was a 4-year gap between 1973 and Star Wars, which was obviously later updated to Star Wars A New Hope when he realized he was going to make maybe too many of them. Anyway.
Nice try. Yeah.
But this movie is actually considered one of the most profitable movies of all time. The budget was $775,000, and it ended up grossing over $100 million. Now that, of course, is over many years and re-releases, etc. But that's how we got the script. So for all of you Star Wars fans, something to think about. Again, as I said before, this is considered to be a time capsule piece. I'm not sure if it's in this. I feel like some pieces are in the Smithsonian, but I probably shouldn't get ahead of myself. Mel's Diner from this film became a franchise. And it's also young Ronny Howard before Happy Days.
Because of this movie.
Which coincidentally also started with Rock Around the Clock.
It's literally because of this movie.
Yeah.
This movie came out in 73. Happy Days starts in 74.
Yeah. So this is when he was at his sexual peak, which is why he's the one dating the cheerleader star, little Ronny Howard there. This movie actually
my sexual peak watching little Ronny Howard in this movie. Actually,
we'll get into that. We'll get into all this stuff because there's so much fun trivia stuff that I know we've all. Anyway, let's get into the plot here.
Your peak.
All right, I know I'm rambling, but fuck you guys with this whole thing. All right, this is.
Sorry.
It's actually produced by Francis Ford Coppola the year after The Godfather came out, which is part of the reason that he was able to secure his budget and get this movie made.
That's actually the only reason they could get the soundtrack they wanted.
The soundtrack, which right now today would be so fucking expensive, and it's the same songs.
Yeah. The soundtrack, if you tried to do that soundtrack today, it would cost about 40 times the budget of this film.
Yeah, it's funny they couldn't pay some of the crew members, so they paid them with on-screen opportunities. And it's funny because they did pay the people who produced all the music because they needed that 40 songs. Okay, anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll get into it slowly. But Richard Dreyfuss, who somehow goes from high school booty chaser to middle-aged shark expert in 2 years because he's in Jaws 2 years later. And then Ron Howard. And then you'll also have Harrison Ford. George Lucas directed. Harrison Ford is in this film. Any connections there, people?
Was this Harrison Ford's first one?
No. He was in a couple other movies. Actually, The Conversation came out this year, maybe the year after this too. So a couple other big ones. I'm not even talking about this fucking movie's about yet. God damn it. Okay, so American Graffiti is about. This is actually one of the few movies where the one sentence IMDb description actually nails it, which is a couple of high school grads spend one final night cruising the strip with their buddies before they go off to college. We can unpack that more, but this is American Graffiti. It all takes place in one night after a couple, they say it's 2, but let's say 4 best friends before they go off to college in Southern California. Cars, music. It's set in 1962. It's a nostalgia piece. It's great. Who would like to get us started with initial reactions? Why don't we start with one of our co-hosts before we get into our special guests?
And let's also throw this out there that this is our this episode is, you should have seen that by now. All 4 of us
got to say that.
have never seen this movie. All 4 of ours should have seen it by fucking now. Can I believe none of us have seen American Graffiti? I kind of want to just throw that out there. And then maybe Matt, you can just come back at us. What was it like watching the first time? I think we're all going to have some thoughts on like hearing so much about this movie before we saw it. So like, what did you think, dude?
It's always been for me that one George Lucas movie, even more than THX 1138, which is a movie that I kind of found in film school. But this is always the George Lucas movie that's like hanging in the closet that you haven't watched yet. And it's just kind of crazy that George Lucas is somebody, I think, especially for guys in our age group, he really molded us in our childhoods, with Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Willow and all this amazing stuff. So it's crazy to think of him pre-franchise. Crazy to think of him untouched by studio as a maverick, right? As an indie director coming in with a vision, and he's not talking about spaceships or futuristic environments or green screen. He hasn't discovered any of those tricks yet. His tricks are characters, and he does them well, right? You can see a little bit of that sort of bigness coming through in the way that he shoots things, that he would later find in Star Wars, those really, really lush wides. But I really was impressed with his character work. I thought this was just going to be a car movie. And I was like, I'm not into the idea of a car movie. I think that was the other reason I was kind of blowing it off. It's not a car movie. The cars are the background. This is a people movie. And I think the amazing thing is, especially if you're like a Richard Dreyfuss fan, if you're like a Matt Hooper fan, get ready, because Hooper is charming as fuck in this movie. He's awesome. Survives a crazy night. I think the craziest night of all the nights that we see in the movie. With it, and comes out like Richard Dreyfuss. I was impressed. I was really impressed with the character work. It's a sweet movie.
I completely agree.
Richard Dreyfuss does subtext so well, where he knows what he's doing is ridiculous, and his story. Well, how should we break down? Let's go with initial reactions first, and then we'll get into the movie. Dave, what was your initial takeaway after watching this movie?
I was a little worried about this because, I mean, famously, I know it's I looked at it.
Dave hates the AFI list. Whenever somebody says it's a good movie, Dave is like, "Fuck you!" In Australia, we have 10-inch spider legs. Eight times 8. It's like your little movies mean nothing to us.
It's got to do with anything.
Nothing. Has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I was a little worried about this because,
that's for you, Jeff. Go fuck
I forgot John has the thing.
Oh yeah, we got remote buzzers going. Everyone can buzz everyone, pretty much. I was a little concerned because it says written and directed by George Lucas, and famously they had to alter a lot of the dialogue in Star Wars because they were like, George, nobody talks
enough
like this.
Not enough in those in the 1, 2, 3. Sorry.
We both hit him.
He gets buzzed for each prequel.
Love is like sand.
But
love is like sand, course.
Yeah,
sorry.
It eases, like, you ease into like a shot with like Rock Around the Clock, and it's got the diner there, and then this moped basically rides in, and the first thing he does is crashes the fucking thing up a wall, and I laughed out loud.
Awesome, yeah.
I then found out later that was an accident. It like a real accident. He fucked up stopping the thing and ran up the wall, and they left it in, and like apparently he was encouraging people to improv, and you can see it a little bit. You can see them playing with each other. Like there's famous stories about people getting kicked out of hotels and all this, like on this, and Harrison Ford apparently was drunk for almost every scene. But it's a like, it was definitely not what I expected at all. I didn't really know what to expect. I did feel like I might have found the movie that finally has more driving than Bullet. But it didn't suffer for it, which is great because they did this like fantastic thing where if there were two cars, they shot them both at the same time because they had two cinematographers and stuff like that. So I feel like I really enjoyed it. I have some issues with the ending, but we'll discuss that a little bit later. But I feel like I really enjoyed it.
All right.
And it was a good watch, and I learned a bit.
John?
Nice, dude. Yeah, I think I kind of similar to Matt, like it, and Dave, you said it too. It's kind of hard to like separate your relationship with George Lucas in this movie, just because I don't know, I think a lot of us grow up hearing about this movie, and then later in your life you learn, wait, George Lucas directed that? Like you just don't really, you don't think about that.
It's like George Lucas, Spielberg, Marvel. Your expectations go, oh, there we are. We're up here now.
It's different, you know? And, you know, like I think a lot of us, you know, I've definitely done plenty of deep dives and watched all the documentaries on George Lucas's life and this coming of age into Star Wars. And as Matt said, like he definitely identified as a indie filmmaker and always did. I mean, Star Wars just blew up and he basically got his control back as an independent filmmaker eventually. So I'm going to second what you said, Matt, that the character work was fantastic, but it's so obvious to me that you also see a person who is probably a prodigy filmmaker. Like this guy just knew how to film a movie. Like whether or not you thought it was the most captivating thing you've ever seen, while it's not about cars, the staging of everything that was happening in that period piece was very authentic in my mind. I felt like I was right there with them. So once again, is, you know, I'm a hardcore number one, A New Hope fan. I really love his first directorial thing in Star Wars. And I see a lot of the remnants there with this, just the way he likes to stage his wide shots and stuff. So I kind of I didn't have issues separating from it technically. I was just so pleasantly surprised by how well he made this movie. And then on top of that, you have so many people that are in this that you've seen before and have gone on to do such amazing work that I'm not gonna lie, for me, this made me feel like I was watching my mom's generation's version of Dazed and Confused.
Everyone on the great
it.
work except those two cinematographers. Nothing after this.
Oh, that's a shame. I wouldn't mind doing a deep dive and finding out if they thought about it.
Dazed and Confused definitely. There's no. I know Slacker got him Dazed and Confused, and I actually just read the book called All Right, which apparently is not just Matthew McConaughey's. It was somebody who wrote a book, which is just a series of interviews about the making of that movie. But they don't talk about American Graffiti, and I think they're doing it. Well, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like, that means that it's about American. Get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? If they said, American Graffiti, that would mean like loosely. No, for sure. It's one night, high school. It's
one night, yeah.
Nostalgia.
Even the scene in Dazed where they go to score the booze is wholesale ripped from American Graffiti. It even ends with a guy shooting at them.
That moment,
it's the same scene.
That moment in American Graffiti was so funny, dude. When he tosses the booze out and runs away, so well done. But yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to say, Jeff. Basically, that I'm a huge fan of when you can pull off. It feels like a play. We've talked about this on this show before. I kind of love it when you turn the single episode, the single night, the single day into kind of a really cinematic experience. With Dolce Vita, I mean, he's definitely not the first one to do it, but for America with a score like this, I completely understand why some people would look at this being number 62 on the AFI list, above Cabaret, behind Sullivan's Travels, and say, I don't know if it's a cinematic masterpiece, but I also understand why somebody would say, yeah, but when this thing came out, it exploded. Let's just talk about it. We don't have to talk about it. I'm just going to list it very fast. The budget for this thing was $777,000. It made $115 million worldwide. So basically, after Lucas made THX with Coppola up there in San Fran, they lost a lot of money on it, and they were still in that independent mindset thinking. And they basically said, "All right, let's do it again, but let's nail it to the wall. Let's make sure we do something that is going to make us money." And Lucas just a book in that he took his skill set down there. He knew how to make a good movie. Got a great team of actors, a really good script in his hands, and he let those characters go to work in his magnificent framing. And I'm just not surprised this movie is as popular as it is. So I really had a fun time.
He understood the power of nostalgia. I mean, it's not, again, that's not just the cars, as we said before, but there's a little Deuce Coupe in it, right? There's a T-Bird, which apparently the owner of the T-Bird was on set and stayed close and kept polishing it between sets and telling everybody how to drive it. It's a co-written script for all of our George Lucas critics of his writing, and it's coming off of a line of independent films, so that like Easy Rider was a couple years before this, and you even can see like, you know, I always thought it would be like Mean Streets, The Godfather, Serpico, like it was all brawny, but it wasn't exactly that case. The Graduate, like all these other movies were opening up the doors to that. So people just wanted that reminder of what it was like. This is remnant of George Lucas's life growing up, I imagine. And Matt, you said you studied this in film school. You have the lineage of when this falls, because this is one of those great years. We talked about The Exorcist on here, but we just talked about The Sting. Came out the same year as this, 73.
And beat it at the Oscars, right?
Yeah.
The Sting beat it. Yeah, this was nominated for 5 Oscars, which all the reviews will say the structure of this is hidden. You don't even realize how well structured this is, maybe until the second or third thing. But Matt, when this came out, the lineage of what's going on probably helped this thing just explode, right?
I absolutely think so. Yeah.
To second the point you just said, dude, because that was such a perfect parallel. Just like in the 70s, late 60s into the early 70s, when these amazing independent filmmakers were coming out of United Artists, Coppola, Scorsese, and they were just, nailing it to the wall with these really gritty things. That was happening in the early 90s too. Tarantino,
similar,
PTA, Fincher, it was a very similar thing. And then Linklater pops out of it with this kind of nostalgia piece.
Well, I mean,
and
Tarantino told you he was doing
pieces,
it.
I was waiting for a buzz to happen. I was like,
I'm waiting for a buzz.
Going to be negative about something.
Get buzzed.
Yeah, get out of here. And I asked Matt. Matt, you open up. Let's go. I'm buzzing John again for cutting you off. Let's go.
Okay. You know what? How about this? In the spirit of buzzing and in camaraderie with Dave, I'm going to say something that I didn't like. I did love the movie, but I will just point out one thing that I think there is a weird situation happening with the badass Fonzie character of this movie, whose name is John Milner. He is stuck with a little girl. Her name is Carol. He's stuck with her
16 candles.
Yeah.
Oh man, he wishes she was 16 candles. I think she's like 13 or something in there. And it's really cool because and this is really just putting it in a can, but through their unlikely sort of friendship, they both grow up over the night. What I didn't like was I thought that actor, the little girl, was pretty bad. Her character's written really well. Her character's written here we go.
She became a pretty big success wasn't she Laverne and Shirley?
Yeah, she was.
No,
yeah.
Was that her?
No. That's
That's
Ron Howard's girlfriend.
No, it was.
Yes, you're right. Sorry, she became something.
Mackenzie
though.
Phillips. I'm going for it. Keep talking, Matt. I'll find it.
Yeah, she's a little too abrasive when she needs to be abrasive. And I get that she's being like the catty young girl, right? She sort of wants to show off for the big tough guy. John Milner owns the drag. He is Mr. Cruz and everybody knows his deuce coupe. So it's a big deal for her to be in the car with him. And it's kind of funny how she's written on the page like she is running every situation they're in. She manipulates John. She gets John to feel bad for her. She's controlling every situation. I think in the hands of a Jodie Foster, who would have maybe been era appropriate for this, something like that would have been a little better, but I was not in love with Mackenzie Phillips. I loved her character, did not like the actor.
Right, there you go.
All right, so
I mean,
let me say this
you fuck yourself,
constructively.
but like it's all good, you know.
Yeah. Let me say this constructively, though.
Jeff,
like,
the buzz is enough. You don't have to tell him to go fuck himself.
Oh, okay, go.
I feel like Jodie
The shame
Foster,
I feel already.
How about this? Can we all accept this? Can we agree with this? I feel like Jodie Foster is to Scorsese what Mackenzie Phillips is to George Lucas. Like,
Why is that?
Jodie may have been too intense and too real and too next level with the grounded realism.
Right,
I
that's
don't feel
everybody
like
who
this
sees
movie-
Taxi Driver says, "Man, she's just too good, man." I don't know.
She might have stolen the movie away.
That's
the
honestly, I
issue.
don't know if anyone with that kind of reality was supposed to really peak, except for Richard. I feel like Richard's character was the only one that was supposed to be. We already said he kind of has the craziest night, and I don't just think it's his arc of his character. I feel like the actor Richard Dreyfuss, what he brought to it, there was this grounded kind of thing that otherwise the flip of what happens in his story wouldn't really make sense. Everyone else in this movie you kind of get the idea that, oh, the 50s, just people know what it can be. It can be summed up in a single night. They can make their plans. Everything is kind of in this perfect nostalgic place. And then Dreyfuss is the most, I felt that he was the most grounded one. And that gave him potential to have his world turned upside down. Now, Dave, you mentioned earlier you didn't really like the ending, though.
I didn't. Not the ending. It's like I'll get into that in a minute. But Dreyfuss for me was, and having seen them in the reverse order, he reminded me a lot of Jeremy Piven in PCU. Just in the way he carried himself and stuff.
Yeah, good call. That's fun. He does have a little bit.
PCU is one of my guilty pleasure films.
Oh, I'm right there with you.
I love that thing.
Can you blow me where the Pampers is?
Yeah.
Can you blow me where the Pampers is?
Another audio grab for this week.
Thank you.
Yeah, Richard Dreyfuss is like an amazing. I read this thing, and I can't take credit for this, but I read this thing online about American Graffiti in preparation for this lovely podcast. That each of the cars featured in the movie sort of have a human analog. So obviously for Milner, he's got the Deuce Coupe. For your boy Ron Howard, he's got the really nice white big whatever Chevy that is, right? Toad has a mix of his Vespa and the car he borrows from Ron Howard. But if you notice the car that Richard Dreyfuss is driving, he's driving a Citroen. It's like this weird French car. It's quirky. It's weird. The color's kind of odd. It doesn't really work. He's got to get a jump to it. It's a lot like Richard Dreyfuss, especially, and I won't give this away, but what becomes of his character, what we're told in the epilogue, it sort of all makes sense. It's neat. It's like another little Lucas touch where it's like, hey, you're bad, so your lightsaber is red. Okay, well, you're this kind of character. You're going to drive a weird French import. You're the tough guy. You drive the Deuce Coupe. Like, it's cool. Those little associations make for a great movie shorthand.
I would love to see the screenplay to see if it's like internal Deuce Coupe, internal, like if it's the cars listed as the locations, because they were.
How did they do it? Does anybody know how they did those camera angles? Because they did a lot of shots. So the whole night, just in case anybody's here listening that hasn't seen this yet, it's back and forth between the diner, Mel's Diner, which is sort of like a beacon on the hill. Like it really feels like there's nothing around it. Like it's like Sonic if Sonic was awesome. You know what I mean? And serve good food. Although one thing that doesn't
Anything
make sense
negative.
though is that at one point characters order food and then leave before they get it. That's something that I promise you, friends, I will never do ever in my life. I will never leave, even if I have to wait
Chili
20
dogs
minutes.
and
I'll just
cherry
complain about it.
Cokes.
I recently waited a full hour at an Indian restaurant for food that I had already ordered online, so I would never leave before it. But anyway, so you have Mel's Diner, and then a lot of people driving around. So back and forth. Mel,
Let me
do
ask
you
you
have
this:
that
does it
typical-
annoy you when you see characters on film eating, and then they walk away from a meal, or they're in the middle of a bite and they have to leave? Are you a person who lingers on the food on screen?
Yeah, they might as well shout that their phone number is 555-5555 when they do that.
Yeah, I'll tell the
Yeah,
one that
but
I'll throw back. Seeing as you asked that question, The Witches, the Anne Hathaway.
Why would
film
you
on
shout
HBO.
that out? Yeah,
the
because we
one
watched
thing
it?
that angered me the most in that movie was when that kid would not eat his fried chicken.
That's what angered you the most?
Yeah,
No, I remember you saying that.
because
No, I
I'd just
remember
been
you
put on
saying
a
that.
diet. And I'm like, you eat that fried chicken, you little
She
bastard.
had just made it too. I'm going to push back. I'm going to push back a little bit, though. I remember specifically thinking the opposite. So maybe I kind of lost track of it throughout the movie. But the first scene when Ron Howard, which I thought was great, is trying to break up with his girlfriend, Cindy Williams, and they're both eating French fries in the car, and he can't quite say it. I was like, good for them. They're actually eating those fries. Like they're eating a lot of French fries, but in the lull moments, and it didn't feel like, you know, food acting where you kind of half eat the fry just for continuity so you won't mess it up. So I think there were a couple scenes later where Ronnie is in the diner alone after she leaves him and he's sipping a milkshake. And it was like, what is he doing? Like nobody's actually eating in this restaurant anymore. But I don't know. I do focus on shit like that. And I think it's fucking annoying because that'll
Fries are
right
good,
out
though.
of the movie if they fuck
Fries
it
are
up.
quieter than chips. You know what I mean? You can eat a lot of them. It's not like eating the burgers for anybody who loves
Guys, I wanna
the
ask- all right,
social network
we're-
back behind the scenes.
We're on this thing right now. I guess I want to ask you guys a technical question. I noticed it with this. I watch old movies all the time, so it's something I think about, but definitely this and The Sting. I understood every word clearly. I put on a recent thing on a streaming service, and I'm like, don't get me wrong, I love sound mixes. I have, have good speakers and stuff. I want the full sound effect, but I'm having troubles kind of hearing dialogue from contemporary stuff. You don't miss a fucking word in these old movies, do you?
A lot
I
of
feel like
that's in
it
the
is right
to
there.
be totally technical. A lot of that is in the transcoding. Like some of this stuff was shot in mono, like it was recorded
Right.
in mono.
I think
it was
that's because
it was recorded in stereo.
mono. Yeah.
Whereas, and sometimes in the trip through streaming and QC and everything, the levels in like because you can mix the hell out of something that sounds great in a studio, but then you
Right.
don't know what everyone's got their shit set to at home.
Yeah.
So some
Right.
people have like the dialogue track down, some people, and sometimes the mix doesn't come well through sound bars. It's like getting a film mix. Like if you want it to sound right, go to the movies and see it.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. I don't
And
know
the
if they did
sound
the
mix in this
extra reviews.
movie's beautiful. They're
It
able
is.
to. I mean,
I thought so
usually with
too,
George
yeah.
Lucas, right? You kind of understand like sound's going to be good, right? Even if it's Attack of the Clones, you close your eyes, the sound is good.
Sound.
You like the sound.
Jax.
But I love that sound. Not only
My finger was hovering
is
over
just
that buzzer right there.
I was ready for you. No, but what I love is that sound also sort of features as an environmental element in the movie in that, the way that Toad knows the car is stolen is that the radio stops playing.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize it because I was so caught up in the moment with him and that girl. She was great, by the way. That weirdo. I don't know what her name was.
Yeah, she was wonderful.
She was
I think she ended up, like,
amazing.
She has pictures like David Bowie and people like I don't. She used her success from.
She was like the 1973 version of like I could see like a Zooey Deschanel playing her today, like weird, quirky, not quite manic pixie because there's a dark side there. Like, hey, let's drink. Hey, let's look at some blood. But I loved, of course, the unlikely pairing with her and Toad, and then just the sound. You realizing that the car is gone because there's no more Wolfman Jack. It was such a
Man,
cool.
Jack, yeah, dude. Let's open that up. Like, I mean, I think that was something that similar to Dazed and Confused and in Nashville, very similar to both of these things. There was a very important radio piece that really does kind of tie this all together so that you feel
Do
like
the Right
it's not-
Thing, Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, do the right thing.
Yep.
It's not just the nostalgic element. It's the all right, go with me here. I might be above my head here, but I think this was a really good example of how George Lucas knows how to build a world. I felt like I was connected to the world of that night through Wolfman Jack. Everywhere
He's a
I
real
went.
person. He's a real DJ.
Yeah.
By
He's
the
a
way.
real DJ. It was
Oh, yeah.
George Lucas's childhood DJ in California where he grew up. And I'm so glad you pointed that out, dude, because it seems like such an obvious
Dude,
maybe
Wolfman Jack was
device for
world
the movie.
famous.
Yeah, he
World
was world
famous.
famous,
And
but, like,
I
what-
love
what-
also
yeah.
in the movie, there's a mythology about him. Like nobody knows exactly who he is.
Yeah,
stuff.
the-
So
the
they get-
reveal of
they
that
get- yeah.
was wonderful.
You know
Yeah.
what I love too about that Wolfman scene is that Richard Dreyfuss has been through some shit in this movie.
Yeah.
Gets like abducted by a local gang named the Pharaohs, which by the way, that one guy is definitely like 50.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's like a felon.
Yeah.
He's not a high school kid.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, he survives all this and he comes out only to meet his hero. And that's when he grows up, when he looks back and realizes that guy is Wolfman Jack. And
can do it
these
too,
are the
yeah.
tapes. The amazing improvisations I think I hear on the radio that seem so fresh are pre-taped. That's a guy sitting here eating popsicles.
Yeah.
That's when he grows up. It's kind of amazing. It's just such a weird detail.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
All right.
All right.
I'm
Well,
gonna
okay.
turn
What else
us-
do we
I'm
get
gonna turn
to?
us around to the ending.
Okay.
yeah.
Because,
Come at
like,
me, Joe.
you-
What are you
get
talking about?
Well, I'm talking about the very last shot where it shows the plane, and
Okay.
then suddenly it cuts to a text,
Yeah.
and
Is
it
it because
tells
security was-
College.
and it tells you what happens to each of them, and like
Oh yeah. Come on.
Except for
Who
the
cares,
women.
man? The
it
movie's
leaves
over.
out the
It doesn't-
women.
Yes,
It doesn't talk
interestingly.
about the
yeah,
women.
it's just the main four
And
guys.
Pauline
but-
Kael brought that up. It was like, hey, what did the women not merit a screen? And apparently George Lucas's answer to that was the movie was already too long. I couldn't have another screen of text.
Yeah.
What women?
Yeah.
I mean,
What
you
women are you
didn't
talking
need
about?
that one, to be honest. It was like that
It's
was.
like
Why would you leave your audience stunned and confused by that? It's like we've just watched these characters and everything, and all of a sudden, one of them's dead and one of them's not really doing anything with his life, and like it was a downer, and I didn't
Probably
appreciate
dumb.
it.
He's probably like, maybe people will think this is real. It's like the Fargo thing. He's like, well, maybe they'll leave it.
Nobody
Like,
buzzed
oh,
me
he's
for that.
made by
I'm
real
getting off
people.
scot free here.
Get out of here. I was trying to make my point.
Dave, I know what you mean, dude, and that is, credit where credit's due. That was a directorial choice. Like that, I'm sure they screened it both ways, made some decisions, and he fought for that.
I mean,
at some point, he thought
a
it was
lot of
good
movies in
idea.
that time were doing that, like Animal House and stuff like that did it.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. I kind of thought that maybe it was like a spin on that, but I also think that maybe he underestimated his ability to begin franchises because this went on to do something else.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that was his way of ending the movie. When it didn't bother me that much what you're talking about, but I think I did prefer the inflection point of Dreyfuss's decision and then seeing the airplane in the air, and I was kind of ready to be left in the air.
Yeah,
ready to
left in
travel
the
on
air.
to
Like
my
he's
next
moved.
step.
Everyone had.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I say everyone had resolved, but even then, at the end of the film, like almost every character had made the decision to stay exactly where they started or keep doing exactly the same thing they were doing at the beginning. So nobody had a development arc. They had some experiences and then decided to just keep living their life the way they were. So there's only
Yeah.
one person this whole film that actually changed.
No, Ron Howard.
I mean,
was
Ron Howard, but Ron Howard decided to do
Yeah.
exactly the same thing he was doing at the beginning of the film. He's staying in his hometown. He's not going off to granted, yeah, that's a change, but like
Yeah.
everybody else just went back to exactly what they were doing.
I kind of love
Yeah.
seeing as Dreyfuss is taking off.
I'm buzzed Dave late, but yeah.
Go,
It was on the fence, but
I loved seeing when Dreyfuss was taking off. He takes a look down at the road, and you see what I presume is the white T-bird.
Yeah.
And it feels like not only is he leaving town, he's chasing the dream. He's still chasing it because his
Yeah,
dream is the
exactly.
woman in the car.
Hmm.
And she's tracking along with the plane. And I was like,
Susan
"You metaphorical motherfucker! Is this what we're
That's-
doing? Are you doing this?"
That's
That was
great.
great.
But-
Suzanne Summers.
Also, yeah,
Yes.
that's good. But stop before you get to that text at the end. I mean, okay, just bear with me. Can you imagine if he ended Star Wars like that? We get to the end, they put the medals on, and then suddenly it comes up with 4 things. It's like Luke discovered his dad was the destroyer of the galaxy and had his hand chopped off during an argument. They never reconciled. Leia ran off with a smuggler after her family discovered her teenage pregnancy. C-3PO was killed by security trying to smuggle weed into Cloud City. And Panda Baba learned to write right-handed and is now an insurance salesman on Hoth.
Okay.
So, like,
an insurance
seriously.
salesman.
We also know.
One of them
that
was an
George
insurance
Lucas-
salesman. Fine.
Get out of here. I know.
Oh,
but
you go back
C-3PO
after that?
C-3PO didn't sell pot out with his 6,000 languages. He didn't need another trade. He didn't need a reason to make money.
Dave,
So
I think you should
apparently
write
there
in
are
because
some American Graffiti connects really quick, not to keep harping on the prequels, but did you guys catch that the car, the little flying car that Obi-Wan Kenobi drives around is supposed to be a reference to the Yellow Deuce Coupe from American Graffiti, as well as Dexter Jettster's diner is supposed to be a callback to Mel's Drive-In?
That's a stretch.
No.
Supposedly.
I like it.
for,
You know
Google.
what? Kiss a duck, Dave, with your negative shit. We have a guest on here trying to give you some good crap. Kiss a duck. Come on.
Thank you.
That is
Also,
my-
did we all notice
That's
that
my
Milner's
second
license
favorite line
plate?
in the movie.
Did we also notice that Milner's license plate is THX 138, almost
I did see that.
1138?
I
Yes.
did see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to settle this. I do want to put this down because I'm fucking sick. I've been sick of this my whole fucking life, listening to people who keep saying that, oh, Harrison Ford was an absolute nobody before Han Solo. He was an architect and they just asked him to come on and play this role.
Carpenter.
No, he wasn't. He was an actor. Yes, the set carpenter was his side
He needed
job.
a raise, otherwise he couldn't support his family.
He had
'cause
been in multiple things before Han Solo. This is proof of it. He was in one of George Lucas's movies before he was in Star Wars. He was a reader for Star Wars. Anyway, I'm just glad anyone who doesn't know that story, watch this fucking movie and then just shut the fuck up for the
Wait,
rest of your life.
I want to settle two things. Number one, does Harrison Ford have the voice of Gordon McRae? And number two,
He made a choice.
is Harrison Ford better at driving cars or flying airplanes? What's he better at?
Definitely
guys?
cars.
Indiana Jones can't land, so I'm gonna go car.
Ouch. You know, he
Does get in an
didn't
accident
take
in this, so it's not great either way.
Apparently, I saw Dave, you mentioned earlier, two fun little pieces. He got into a bar fight and got kicked out of, he got arrested at one point during the shoot in a bar fight. And he was getting paid so little money, supposedly, IMDb trivia, that he refused to cut his hair. He didn't think that this role was paying enough, so that's why he's wearing a cowboy hat the whole
Oh no,
fucking
he
time.
didn't think he was in it enough for him to the role wasn't big enough for him to warrant cutting his hair. They were paying him. They offered him $480 or $475 a week, and he upped him to $5. Otherwise, he was going to quit.
Yeah. Well, I love it that he was like, well, I can't pay for my family because I'm
$500
making
a
more
week.
money as a carpenter.
Yeah.
And then all the stories of Harrison Ford are like he's drunk on set, getting in fights and getting in like dance battles and stuff. And it's like he had a family, but it's all night shoots too. So he like showed up at 5 a.m. drunk to his family and was like, just trying to bring home the bacon.
Not only was he fighting, apparently they were climbing to the top of the Holiday Inn sign.
Yes.
That's what it was.
Which
Yeah.
sounds
yeah.
horrible.
Come on, you
It's
guys.
like-
How bad?
So he
were you
was
during
drunk
this
on
shoot?
set.
He was definitely drunk. But
I wanna
how
be on
crazy
this
is it
shoot.
though that Milner out Han Solo's Han Solo? Han Solo gets some moments, but Milner is so badass, man.
He was badass.
I mean,
Yeah, hitting on that
He's badass.
16-year-old.
Hitting
on the girlies.
Yeah.
Anybody have a favorite line in this?
Kiss a duck.
Okay.
It was so
Kiss a
weird
duck
because
is
I knew
definitely-
it was filmed in such a way that I think it actually was supposed to be cool. Not for me.
My favorite is when they take Dreyfuss into to like rob the pinball machines.
Yeah.
And they take him out the front, and he's like, "I want you to take away a little piece of this place." And he's like, "I think I have."
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm like, he just
Aw.
delivered it straight, but you knew exactly what he was talking about. It was the most amazing delivery in this film.
That's an Oscar winner.
I don't have a favorite line, but I do have a favorite detail, Easter
Okay.
egg.
Yeah.
Why does the cop have a bow tie? Did anyone notice this? What police officer has a bow? I'm sorry, it stopped me dead in the scene. I was like, what the fuck is this? What is this
Oh
Pee
my
Wee
God.
Herman motherfucker?
What is the
pulling us over
choice?
for?
I saw this after
Yeah.
the Toxic Avenger, so my idea of cops is just like a little warped in my brain. I think, so.
It's back when the cops were good. They're good. They're innocent here.
Yeah. At
So
least the cop
innocent they
didn't have
wear
an
bow
accent.
ties to work.
John, favorite
Yeah.
something?
Ah,
Okay,
I
no,
don't know.
that's
Yeah. I don't think anything like really stood out to me. But I mean, I really did have
wow.
a
John loved
I'm
this
not
movie,
bullshitting.
guys.
I did. I think I liked it more than you guys, to be honest with you, from the talk of it.
You're probably
I
right.
loved it. I haven't said it. I haven't
Yeah.
said anything negative about this. I thought it was great.
I really
Anything
feel like if
negative at all,
anything,
Jeff?
it
Anything
feels like
critical?
a cool time capsule into this era.
Sure.
Like if anything, it feels, and I hate this word because it's like the hot buzzword everybody's talking about now. Immersive. Everything's immersive.
Yeah.
But this really felt like, hey man, you want to get airdropped into fucking 1962?
Yeah.
This is the movie for you.
Where cruising the strip is
yeah.
Tinder.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
This
Right?
is those like 90s commercials where they were like the hits of the 60s coming at you and they just scroll them on the screen and just like literally every single hit from 1960, including Johnny Be Good. Shout out Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Also,
All
though,
right.
was it a little weird?
Yeah.
Was it a little weird that kids of this era, you could tell they had money to spend on the music? Really, no kids of this era are listening to Elvis? Seems a little strange.
62.
Seems like some money didn't get passed to
You're
the
right.
right
He was
person.
already on Ed Sullivan. You're right.
We got
He
money,
was
but we
very
don't got
expensive.
Elvis money.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
right.
All right, people. I think we did all we can do on this. So if you are listening to this still, thank you so much. But go kiss yourself a duck. Please join us midweek where Matt is going to join us to talk about the Toxic Avenger. And just for reference, we're going to start recording it now. So you can imagine how drunk we're going to be feeling by the end of this.
Oh,
so
dear.
something to think about and give you something to look forward to. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you midweek.